invited to speak to you about luxury hospitality tonight actually put me into a full-on tailspin of an existential crisis. And I don't mean a baby crisis. I mean the kind that keeps you awake for months at a time, the kind where if you fall asleep, you wake up in cold sweats, and when you're awake, you have the hot sweats from the anxiety of it all. It's the kind where I definitely should have seen a therapist. So I did what all successful, responsible adults do when given an opportunity like this, and I completely avoided it for as long as physically possible. Never underestimate the healing powers of procrastination. Every time I even thought about condensing 26 years of hospitality experience, which in real time is like several centuries, it felt completely impossible. And maybe it is. I don't know if anyone out there really cares about the difference between a bath sheet and a bath towel, about the last clean wipe of a plate before it's swept out into a pristine dining room, about the ballet-like art of a maitre d' masterfully working a room, about the super satisfying sticky swish of a lint roller on a marble floor, or all of the special celebrations that we help plan, support, and facilitate. The birthdays, the anniversaries, the weddings, the divorces, the re-weddings, the pretending that the first couple of weddings didn't happen. You get lost in the scope of it all. So I had to pivot quite dramatically and try and condense it all in, everything that we do on a day-to-day basis, into one representative thing. Behold. Seeing that up there really just reinforces the fact this is not the day I make my mother proud. But hear me out. Tipping toilet paper. What is it, first and foremost? Contrary to what it sounds like, it is not, in fact, leaving a cash tip for your hardworking toilet paper. Even though you probably should, it has a genuinely terrible job. What it is, quite simply, is a couple of folds at the end of a toilet roll. That's it. Incidentally, though, as you can see from the photo, it does also definitively and once and for all settle that really heated debate about which direction your toilet roll should be hung in. Don't ever let anyone tell you this talk didn't make the world a better place. But why on earth does this matter? What does it say? Well, probably not much. Most toilet paper that I've ever met doesn't actually speak. But what it signifies is a love letter in toilet paper. Because it is one human telling another human, probably a complete stranger, that they were there and that they cared. That they took time to fold something that is literally going to be thrown away just to take care of this other human. To be fair, it's not the toilet paper that matters, and I want to be very clear about that. It's the thoughtful gesture behind it. And my favorite example of that is actually from the first week of opening at Sensei Porcupine Creek, where I've had the privilege of serving as the general manager for the last 3 years. Now, if anyone out there has ever opened anything, you know that the first week, let's say there's not really a polite word for it, but it's definitely on trend with the toilet theme. You're running around with your head cut off, on fire, trying to remember which way is up, making dreams come true, trying to make sure the team member beside you doesn't flame out in the first week. And in the midst of all of this, we get a note that says a couple is coming to us for their 50th anniversary, a local couple from 2 streets away. We get really excited. This is super cool. It's our first week. But there's a plot twist. 50 years ago, when this couple got married, they made a promise to one another that if they made it to 50 years of wedded bliss or survival, I'm not judging, they were going to take themselves to Bali. Now, I don't actually know if there is a medal big enough in this universe to give to one human for putting up with another human for 50 years. But Bali seems like a really solid place to start. But for a long list of reasons, they couldn't go to Bali. And they were coming to us instead, 2 long blocks through suburban Rancho Mirage. The note was very civil, but the subtext was crystal clear. It said, "We really hope you don't suck." No pressure, right? It's a 50-year-old dream. It was a plan put in place 2 lifetimes ago. This is our jam. Give us an impossible problem to solve any day. We go into hospitality mode like DEFCON level 3. We scour the internet. We talk to their kids. We talk to their grandkids. We talk to their mailmen. We'll talk to anyone who will talk to us. And we personalize literally everything about their entire stay with a thoughtful gesture. Their favorite snacks were in that little fridge, the one that has all the fun surprises in it. The pillow comfort was tailored to exactly what they wanted. Every time they went to dinner, a special dessert was there and waiting for them that was their absolute favorite. We even tipped the toilet paper. Everything was personalized with a thoughtful gesture. And then beyond that, we went out to our team and we let all of them know that this couple was coming to us in our first week instead of going to Bali, which is true. That meant that every single team member that they came into contact with thanked them genuinely and warmly for having that faith in us. And I imagine that had to be really, really cute the first couple of times, and maybe super annoying after the 150th. But it wasn't. We actually ended up giving them the anniversary they never knew that they wanted. And beyond that, we created a new tradition for them. Because every single year since, they've come back to celebrate their anniversary with us. Bali, what? We aren't at all competitive. But why does this thoughtful gesture matter? Why do any of our hospitality jobs actually matter? Funnily enough, hospitality can actually be seen as a microcosm for successful relationships, with no correlation whatsoever that if you are good at hospitality, you are also good at relationships. And I know this because my ex-boyfriends are definitely out there somewhere in the time-space continuum sniggering at this. At its core, hospitality is very simply humans taking, hopefully, great care of other humans. That means that if done well, if done right, the goal is quite simply to make the world just a little bit of a better place for another human. Whether that human is your coworker, is your guest, is your friend, is your family, is your lover. It's about showing up in little ways and big ways. It's about giving them your time, your intention, and your attention. So how on earth did we get here? How on earth did we get to this stage of hospitality and to toilet paper tipping in general? Allow me to introduce you to the intensely unofficial abbreviated history of hospitality. It all began with a very simple idea of gathering around a table and not killing your guests. This was the basic rule. You invited your enemies, you didn't hurt anyone. This is a solid rule to follow, it's still followed today. And then came washing your guests' feet because they were smelly and dirty. And as a hotel manager, I am super grateful we don't do this anymore. And then came my personal favorite, which is laying out food for your guests. We do this still, we just accompany it with a bill. And then came the butlers and the fruit bowls and the pillow sprays and the turn-down amenities and the white gloves and toilet paper tipping. Peak hospitality evolution. The goal of every single one of these, all of these gestures throughout millennia, is the same. The gestures are all intended to create both trust and delight. Now, you would be very right to wonder why at this point I'm still talking to you about toilet paper. I am immensely hopeful that you can see this toilet paper as a metaphor for the idea of a thoughtful gesture. Because otherwise, the internet is going to remember me as the toilet paper lady. That does not align with my life goals. The metaphor of the thoughtful gesture applies to very non-work situations too. Recently, one of my friends was going through a really, really tough time. She and her surprisingly delightful husband had spent the last 2 weeks in the emergency room with their newborn. I cannot even begin to fathom what that feels like. I have no idea. And as a friend, I felt completely useless to help. So trying to figure out what tipping their proverbial toilet paper looked like, it took a minute. I kept thinking, what would I want? And the answer was always wine, and that didn't seem quite right. So in the end, I landed on setting up a housekeeper for their home that had just been newly baby prepped. This is a really, really small thing. But it's a small thing that made a difference. When they came home from the hospital, there was one less thing that was stressful about that night. I think they even tipped the toilet paper. Let's go with a really accessible stereotype. Imagine your mother-in-law is coming to stay. Now, there are half a dozen things you could do to her toilet paper to make this stay interesting. Do not Google it, it's a deep, dark rabbit hole. But imagine if for someone that you maybe didn't like as much as your significant other, and hopefully you like them, you made this gesture that created trust and delight. That gesture in and of itself is powerful because you just set an intention for her stay. You just set an intention for your approach to her. If you were to tip, proverbially or otherwise, the toilet paper for your guests, firstly, it would put you within one slightly awkward degree of separation, but secondly, it would tell them that you care, that you were there, and that you took the time to make this gesture. Imagine their delight in knowing that. And then multiply that delight out by all the guests you ever have, by all the guests that they have, and so forth. And maybe you even tip the proverbial toilet paper for yourself. And then it's no longer a single isolated gesture in a void. It's a movement. And no, that is not a toilet pun, but a deliberate and thoughtful gesture of kindness. In a world that sometimes feels like it prides itself in isolationism, in partisanship and in brinksmanship, what if we made a deliberate effort to create moments of delight and trust with strangers and friends alike? What if we looked for joy in our lives instead of triggers? What if every single tipped toilet paper you saw made you smile? What kind of world would that look like? This being the very essence of hospitality, this sense of delight and trust, I ask you to think about this for one brief moment tonight. Who in your life could you tip the proverbial toilet paper for? Who could you make one small, thoughtful gesture for that would make all the difference in their lives? And what, this very evening, could you do to look for a moment of joy in your own life? Ladies and gentlemen, let us be determined to carry this very beating heart of hospitality out into this noisy, complicated world we live in, and very deliberately make small but meaningful differences in each other's lives every single day. Let's tip the damn toilet paper.